The girl and the wreckage. Captain Hayes hated this planet. The air was dry. The sky was red. Everything smelled like burned metal and death. He walked slowly through the remains of the alien ship. Flames still hissed. Wires sparked from the walls. It looked like a monster had ripped through it. He was alone except for the broken silence. His mission was simple: check for survivors. If none were found, mark the wreck and leave. But then, he heard it. A small sound. A whimper. Hayes turned sharply. His hand moved to his blaster. He waited. Nothing came. Just smoke and shadows. Then he heard it again. It was coming from under, a metal panel near the corner. Carefully, he stepped over broken parts and bent down. His fingers gripped the edge. With one strong pull, he lifted it. And there she was. A small alien girl. Covered in ash, eyes wide and scared. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She just looked up at him like a frightened animal. Hayes knelt. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't answer. But her eyes were fixed on him, green eyes, too bright for a place so dark. He took off his helmet so she could see his face. "See? Human. Not a soldier from your side. I'm here to help." Still no answer, just breathing, shallow and fast. He looked around. The wreck was unstable. They didn't have much time. "I'm gonna pick you up, okay?" he said gently. "Just for a little bit." Slowly, carefully, he reached for her. She didn't run, didn't scream, just watched. When his arms wrapped around her, she was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. She shivered against his chest. Hayes walked quickly out of the wreck, holding her close. Outside, the sunlight was harsh, but better than the smoke inside. He called for medevac on his comm. "Found one survivor. Alien child, no threats, need pickup." "Copy that, Captain," the voice replied. They waited in silence. He gave her water. She drank carefully, like she was afraid it would disappear. Then she looked up at him. "What's your name?" Hayes asked. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Then she whispered something. He didn't understand the words, but the way she said them made his heart ache. "It's okay," he said again. "You're safe now." The shuttle landed minutes later. 2 medics came rushing out. One of them reached for the girl, but she grabbed Hayes' arm tightly. Her small fingers clung to his jacket. "It's okay," he said, trying to smile. "They're here to help." She shook her head slowly. Tears ran down her face. "She doesn't want to let go," one medic said. Hayes looked into her eyes. They were filled with fear, but there was something else too. Trust. He bent down and whispered, "You'll be all right. I promise." Still, she didn't move. So Hayes carried her into the shuttle himself. He laid her gently on the stretcher. The medics checked her vitals. Malnourished, dehydrated, but stable, one of them said. Hayes stood there for a moment, unsure why he felt so heavy inside. He barely knew her, just a scared child. But something in her eyes stayed with him. The girl reached for his hand again. He let her hold it for one last moment. Then he turned to leave. She watched him walk away. Her mouth moved. A whisper, too soft to hear. But if he had stopped, if he had looked back, he might have heard it. "Please don't leave me." Years passed, worlds changed. 12 years. That's how long it had been since Captain Hayes last saw the girl in the wreckage. 12 years since he walked away from her, never knowing her name, never hearing her last words. In truth, he'd tried to forget. The war ended. Peace came slowly. The galaxy moved on, but not him. Some nights he still dreamed of her, not the battles, not the screams, just that one silent moment when her hand slipped from his and he left. He had told himself it was duty, but the guilt never left. Now he stood on the clean, polished floor of Earth's Unity Command Hall, waiting for his next assignment. He was older, sharper, colder. The medals on his chest didn't matter. What mattered was that he never let himself get close to anyone again. A voice called from the hallway. "Captain Hayes, room 4. He stepped in. The lights dimmed. A screen glowed on the wall. A female officer sat behind the desk. Her eyes scanned his record. Then she looked up and said, "You've been selected for a high-priority diplomatic escort." Hayes raised an eyebrow. "I don't usually do politics." The officer nodded. "This isn't politics, it's personal. The ambassador herself requested you by name." His brow furrowed. "Who?" The officer smiled oddly. "She says, you saved her once." That made Hayes pause. Saved her? She wouldn't say more. Only that you'd remember her when you saw her. Hayes said nothing. But something in his chest stirred. A shadow of memory. "You'll meet her tomorrow at Dock 17. Don't be late." Dock 17 was quiet the next morning. Not many ships came in from the Kirilan sector. It was too far, too tense. The Kirilans were once enemies. Now they were allies. Uneasy ones. The ambassador's ship was sleek, silver, and silent. As it landed, a cold wind brushed across the landing pad. Captain Hayes stood still, waiting. The ramp hissed open, and then he saw her. She walked with calm steps, a long, dark coat flowing behind her. Her skin shimmered slightly in the sun. Her hair was tied back, neat and formal. She looked elegant, dangerous, powerful, and familiar. But Hayes couldn't place her until she looked at him. Her green eyes stopped him cold. No, it couldn't be. She stepped closer, not smiling, not speaking, just watching him the way she had once done in a ruined ship, buried in smoke and death. Hayes's voice cracked slightly. "Do I know you?" She tilted her head. "Not anymore, perhaps." Her voice was calm, but her eyes were full of heat, full of something old and deep. He stared at her. "Who are you?" She took another step closer. "You found me." "Once," she said softly. "In the fire." Hayes's breath caught. His heart jumped. It couldn't be. "You were just a child." She nodded. "And you were the only reason I lived." He took a step back, eyes wide. The world felt heavy around him. I didn't know you survived." "I did. And I never forgot you." Silence stretched between them. She finally said, "My name is Valari. I'm Kirilan, and I have waited 12 years to stand in front of you again." Hayes couldn't look away. The little girl was gone, but something in her eyes remained. Valari looked around. "This place, it feels strange. I imagined it so many times." "What do you want from me?" he asked. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "To finish what you started." He frowned. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. Instead, she turned and walked toward her private shuttle, pausing only once to say, "Escort me to my meeting. You'll understand everything soon." And just like that, she was gone, leaving Hayes full of questions and something else he hadn't felt in years. Hope. But he didn't see the small red light blinking under her ship's wing. A tracking device. Someone was watching her. Someone didn't want this reunion to happen, and someone was ready to kill for it. "You don't remember me, do you?" The capital city buzzed with life. Hovercars floated above shining towers. Alien flags waved beside Earth's. Diplomats in robes and armor walked side by side. Peace was being built, but it felt fragile, like glass in a war zone. Captain Hayes walked 2 steps behind Valari. They hadn't spoken since Dock 17. She moved like she belonged here, quiet, graceful, unreadable. Her long coat swayed with each step. Her green eyes scanned everything, calm and sharp. Hayes didn't know what to say. He couldn't stop staring. He remembered a broken little girl, covered in ash and fear. But now, she looked like a queen, and Yet something in her eyes still looked wounded, something hidden. As they entered the Unity Council building, guards checked her ID, then nodded with quiet respect. Hayes noticed how people looked at her, not just as a leader, but as someone dangerous, someone important. She was no longer just a survivor. She had become something more. Inside, the hallways were cold and empty. Valari finally broke the silence. "You didn't recognize me." Her voice was soft. Hayes hesitated. "I wasn't sure." "You didn't remember my voice?" He looked at her. "It's been 12 years. I remembered yours," she said quietly. "Every word." Hayes stopped walking. "Look, and I never forgot you. I just thought you were gone. They took you to a Karellan facility after the rescue. I wasn't allowed to follow." She turned, her eyes unreadable. "But you didn't try." That hit him. He opened his mouth, closed it. There were no excuses. Valari stepped closer. "I waited years. Hoped maybe you'd send a message. A name. Something. But nothing came. I thought I was doing the right thing," he said. "By leaving me behind?" He looked down. For a long moment, there was only silence between them. Then, she said, "Do you know why I asked for you?" He shook his head. She stepped closer, so close he could see the faint shimmer on her skin, the mark of her species. "Because I need someone I can trust. And because I need to know if what I felt back then was real." "What you felt?" She didn't answer, just turned and kept walking. They entered a private meeting chamber, dim lights, soundproof walls. Valari sat. Hayes remained standing. She pulled out a hologram disc and set it on the table. A flicker. An image came up. It showed a symbol. Dark, sharp, alien. Hayes narrowed his eyes. "That's not a peace symbol. It's a warning," she said. "This was left on my ship 2 nights ago." "Someone threatened you?" "No," she said. "They claimed me." Hayes felt cold. "Claimed you?" Valari leaned back. "There's a faction inside the Karellan worlds. They believe I don't belong in peace talks. They call me the human saved. They believe I was tainted." Hayes frowned. "That's ridiculous." "Not to them. They think I was weak, broken, that I carry human weakness in me. They don't know I survived because of strength, not weakness." Hayes looked at the symbol again. "You think they're planning something?" "I know they are. I've seen the messages, and I believe they're here, on Earth." "Why come here if you knew the danger?" She looked at him, directly. "Because I trust you to keep me alive." Something in his chest twisted, and then she said it. "But if they find out we're close, you'll be a target too." Hayes leaned in. "Then tell me everything. All of it. No secrets." Valari nodded slowly. "I will. But not here." She stood and walked toward the window, looking out over the city. "I remember the way you held me when I was afraid," she said, voice lower now. "I remember your eyes. I remember your warmth." Hayes swallowed. "Valari?" She turned around, suddenly serious. "You don't remember what you whispered to me that day, do you?" He blinked. "What?" "In the wreckage. Right before the medics came. You said something. Something soft." He searched his memory. It was a blur. Fire. Fear. Her fingers on his jacket. "I don't..." She looked disappointed. Hurt even. "I remember," she said. "You said, you'll never be alone again." Hayes froze. He had said that. He had meant it. And then he had walked away. Before he could answer, the door hissed open. A soldier stepped in. "Captain Hayes, you're needed outside. Urgently." Hayes looked at Valari. "I'll be right back." But when he stepped into the hallway, his instincts screamed. The lights were off, too quiet. And then, boom, an explosion ripped through the floor above. The building shook. Smoke filled the corridor. Alarms blared. Inside the chamber, Valari's guards shouted. Hayes turned back, but something was already wrong. Someone had triggered the trap, and Valari was missing. She vanished without a trace, but left one clue behind. The smoke was thick and choking. Hayes stumbled through the hallway, lungs burning, eyes stinging. Sirens screamed all around. Soldiers ran past him, shouting into comms. Explosion on level 6, all security teams respond. He turned back toward the meeting room, but when he reached it, the door was blown halfway off its hinges, and Valari was gone. Only her empty chair remained, and a faint smell of burnt ozone. Hayes stormed in, scanning the room. No blood, no sign of a fight, just silence. She had been taken fast. Too fast. His mind raced. Whoever did this wasn't just trying to kill her, they wanted her alive, which meant this was planned, coordinated. He spotted something on the floor, a small shard of metal, sharp, curved, glowing faint red with alien runes. He picked it up. It wasn't part of the explosion. It looked placed. A message. Later in the base command room, Hayes stood before the giant wall of holoscreens. Footage from dozens of cameras played, each showing different angles of the explosion. He watched over and over. Valari had been there. Then, smoke, chaos, vanished. No trace of her leaving. The base commander frowned. No life signs detected, leaving the chamber. No warp signature, no physical exit. It's like she was removed from reality. Hayes stared at the screen. That's not possible. Apparently it is. Hayes turned to the tech officer. Check all deep layer frequencies, scramble codes. Look for interference in gravity fields. They used a slipgate or something experimental. The commander crossed his arms. Why do you care so much, Captain? She's just a diplomat. No, Hayes said. She's not. She's a warning. The room went quiet. Hayes held up the shard he found. This was left behind. It's not just alien tech. It's a calling card. The commander raised an eyebrow. From who? Hayes turned the shard, showing the mark. The same one Valari showed him earlier. From the ones who think she's impure. The ones who think peace is weakness. They just declared war, someone whispered. Hayes didn't speak. But inside he already knew. This wasn't just an abduction. This was a message to him. That night, Hayes sat alone in his quarters. He stared at the old photo, one he had taken long ago during the war. It showed a younger version of himself, holding a frightened alien girl wrapped in a thermal blanket. Valari. Back then, she had clung to him like he was her only anchor. And he had promised to protect her. Now she was grown, powerful, and still. Somehow alone again, he tapped into the shard with a custom scanner. Lines of alien code lit up, but one line blinked in English. You failed her once. Don't do it again. Hayes felt a chill. Someone knew. Someone had been watching them. Next morning, Hayes stood outside the chamber again. The explosion damage had been cleared. The city's leadership was already moving on. But Hayes wasn't. He knelt down where Valari had last stood. That's when he noticed it. Something under the table, tucked in the edge of the baseboard. Tiny, invisible unless you were looking. Data pin. He pulled it free. Valari had left it. She knew she was being taken, and she'd left a breadcrumb. He rushed back to his terminal and plugged it in. A single video file opened. Valari appeared on screen, pale light on her face. Her voice was low, calm. If you're seeing this, I've been taken. Not killed. Taken. She looked straight into the camera. I don't know where they're taking me, but I know they'll try to break me. Make me choose their path. But I made my choice 12 years ago, Hayes. Her eyes darkened. I chose you. The screen flickered. If you still remember who I was, come find me. Follow the mark, and be ready. Because this time, they won't let me go easily. The file ended. Hayes sat frozen, his hands clenched into fists. He didn't know what it meant yet, or how deep this conspiracy went. But he knew one thing for sure. She wanted him to come. And now, he would burn the stars if that's what it took to bring her back. They hunted her for years. Now she's in their hands, darkness surrounded her. Valari opened her eyes slowly. The world above was black metal. The walls hummed with quiet energy. She tried to move. Her wrists were bound in soft but unbreakable energy cuffs. Her ankles, too. She was lying on a smooth platform, floating, moving, captured. The last thing she remembered was the explosion. Now she was somewhere deep and silent and cold. A shape appeared near her. Tall, robed in dark red armor. Its face was hidden, but its voice was soft and sharp. You were never meant to live, girl. And now you return to your makers. Valari didn't speak. She just stared. The figure leaned close. Do you even remember what you are? What you were made to become? I remember everything, she said quietly. I remember you used to hurt children. The figure paused. And I remember the human who stopped you. The armored head tilted slightly. Yes, the soldier. He took what belonged to us. The floating table stopped. A door opened. Harsh red light poured in. We will break you slowly, piece by piece, until you forget him, until you forget who you were. Valari's voice didn't shake. You're too late. He made me stronger than you ever did. Far away, Hayes stood in front of a black market information broker deep inside the shadow zones of the Helion ring. The alien behind the glass clicked his jaws. She was taken by the red line. Hayes tensed. They were disbanded years ago, the alien hissed. They went underground. Now they serve someone else. Someone ancient. Hayes slammed a glowing chip onto the counter. Where did they take her? The alien hesitated, then pointed to a faint star map. Hayes followed the glowing dots. One blinking red mark hovered at the edge of known space. Near the dark systems, a place the Alliance didn't go. Outpost Blackwind, the alien whispered. A prison built in deep silence. No light. No rescue. Hayes stared. That name wasn't just legend. It was forbidden. Inside the prison, Valari was led into a circular room. There were 12 beings seated in high thrones. Their faces were masked. Some were machine. Some were flesh. All were old. Powerful. Speak, one of them said. A second one leaned forward. What do you remember about your purpose? Valari didn't blink. You bred me to become a weapon. A third voice, cold as ice. And instead you became sentimental. I became human, Valari replied. They didn't like that. The lights dimmed. We will fix you. We will tear that weakness out of you. Valari smiled faintly. He already tried, and he died screaming. The room went silent. Then one of the masked lords stood. Begin the reconditioning. Hayes didn't waste time. He landed near the ruins of an old smuggler station orbiting a dead moon. There he met someone he never thought he'd see again, an old enemy, Larek, a former assassin who had once tried to kill Valari. Now, older, scarred, hiding. I heard they took her, Larek said, loading gear into a transport. And I also heard, what you're planning. Hayes tightened his jaw. Then you know I'm going to get her out. You don't just walk into Blackwind, Larek warned. No one gets out alive. Hayes handed him a case. You owe her your life. She spared you. Larek stared at the case, then gave a slow nod. I'll fly. But if we die, I'll make sure they remember her name. Hayes looked out at the stars. No, he said. They're going to remember mine. Back in the prison, Valari was strapped into a chamber filled with flickering lights. Memories were being pulled from her mind. Her first years, her escape, her life with Hayes, her laughter. Pain danced through her brain, but she didn't scream. Instead, she focused. She had left clues, left signs, left the data pin. She had trusted him to find her. And if he was coming, She had to hold on. She had to stay herself, even if it killed her. The camera watching her blinked once. Then a hidden signal passed through the prison systems. A shadow on a nearby moon picked it up. Hayes smiled. She's still alive. He stood and turned to his ship. She left the door open just enough. We're going in. He infiltrated the dark prison, but she wasn't the same anymore. The walls of Blackwind Prison didn't scream. They whispered. Silent systems ran beneath every floor. The halls were empty, the lights low, and the cameras tracked every breath. No doors opened unless summoned. No footsteps echoed unless allowed. It was not just a prison. It was a place designed to erase identity, to crush spirit, to change the mind. And it was exactly where Hayes had just landed, his stolen transport, covered in red line codes and a forged identity, slid into Dock 17. He wore enemy armor now. His face was hidden under a dark helmet, his voice masked, but under the steel, he was burning. He moved through checkpoints like a ghost. Silent, focused. He wasn't here to start a war. He was here to pull one girl out from a nightmare. Valari sat in a small white room, no windows, no sounds. Just smooth walls and a soft artificial voice that spoke to her every hour. You are not who you think you are. You were made, not born. You belong to us. Each time the voice came, she ignored it. Each time the room changed, temperature, she held still. Each time they showed her Hayes's face, twisted, bloody, broken, she did not blink. But something was changing. Inside her mind, the lines were starting to blur. Between now and before, between truth and false, the voice whispered again. This isn't love. It was programming, survival instinct. Valari stared forward and whispered back. Then why does it still hurt? Hayes entered the lower wing just beyond the guard stations. The stolen badge clipped to his chest fooled the scanners, but not for long. He had a window, 10 minutes before the system noticed he didn't exist. He moved fast, past cryo cells, past broken subjects in chambers. Some whispered, some screamed, some just stared. But one cell was dark and locked 3 times over. That was hers. He reached the panel, faked the command code. The door opened with a hiss. She sat on the bed, bare feet, pale skin, hair longer than he remembered, eyes glowing slightly from the implants they had forced into her. She didn't look up, not at first. Then she slowly raised her head. Her eyes met his, and for one moment, time stopped. But she didn't smile. She didn't cry. She just whispered, "You're not real." He stepped forward, took off the helmet. "Valari, it's me. I'm here." She stood up, one step at a time. Her body moved stiffly, like she hadn't walked in days. Then, she stopped just in front of him and said, "You're too late." From the control room, alarms began to scream. Unauthorized badge, security breach, cell 81B open. The lead warden's eyes widened. "Seal the block, lock all exits, kill anything moving." Hayes grabbed her hand. "We don't have time. Can you move?" Valari stared down the hall and nodded, but her eyes were different, not scared, not even angry, empty. They ran through the corridors together. She followed him, her steps quick and sure. Too sure. Guards turned corners. Valari moved before Hayes could. Her hand snapped a wrist, elbow cracked a helmet. No hesitation, no fear. She fought like a weapon, not like the girl who once smiled at the stars beside him. By the time they reached the hangar, Hayes was breathing hard, but Valari wasn't even sweating. She climbed into the ship, pressed buttons like she'd done it 1,000 times. Hayes stared at her. "Val, what did they do to you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked up with cold eyes. "They woke something up inside me. Something that was sleeping." The ship launched. Outside, the prison's defense grid came online. But Valari was faster. She hacked into the tower systems mid-flight. The station lights blinked once, then exploded. Hayes watched in shock. She wasn't just escaping. She was destroying the place. He reached for her arm. "Valari, stop, this isn't you." She pulled away. "You don't know what they did, what I had to become just to survive." A missile flew past the window. Hayes swerved. "We're not out yet." Valari didn't flinch. She raised the shields and activated a hyperskip jump. One breath later, the stars stretched and vanished. Blackwind faded into the dark behind them. In the silence of the jump tunnel, Hayes sat across from her. He searched her face, but he couldn't find the girl from before. Not all of her. Valari finally looked up. Her voice was quiet. "I remember you. I remember us. But something inside me isn't the same anymore." Hayes leaned forward. "Then we fight to get it back. Together." She shook her head slowly. "I don't know if it's still there." She left him in the night, but the fight wasn't over yet. Hayes woke to silence. No hum of the engines. No flicker from the cockpit lights. Just cold air. And an empty chair. His heart sank. He stood up fast, calling her name. "Valari?" No answer. He ran to the ship's outer ramp and froze. She was gone. The tracker, offline. The nav logs wiped. Just a short message burned into the control panel. "Don't follow me." She had left during the second sleep cycle. In the dead of quiet between galaxies, she had taken a single escape pod and locked the ship behind her, left no trail, no direction, just silence. Hayes stared out the window at the stars. She had always loved the stars, but now they felt cold and far away. He didn't cry. Not yet. Not until he saw the one thing she did leave behind. Folded piece of old clothing, his jacket from years ago, the one she had worn the day they first escaped the wreckage together. It smelled like old memories, and something unspoken. But Hayes wasn't the only one searching. Somewhere far across, the dark, a hunter ship had picked up movement. The prison may have been destroyed, but the red line never left loose ends, and Valari was now both asset and threat. The perfect weapon gone rogue. The system activated a protocol. Order: eliminate. Valari stood on a desert moon, wind in her hair, boots half buried in the sand. She looked up at the sky and waited. She knew what she had done. She had destroyed a facility no one was supposed to touch, freed herself, chosen her own path. But she didn't feel free. She felt dangerous. There were voices in her head now, codes, echoes of commands. Her old self battled the new one, every hour, and she didn't want Hayes caught in that war. That's why she left. She told herself it was to protect him, but part of her was afraid of what she might become, afraid he might still love her, even after everything. Back, on the ship, Hayes sat in silence. Then something beeped. A weak signal. One line, encrypted. It came from the edge of Sector 9. One word: help. He moved before thinking, jumped to coordinates, ignored all warnings, and when he arrived, there was fire, a wrecked pod, and blood in the sand. He ran through the crash smoke shouting, "Valari!" No answer, but then, a figure limping through the fire. She turned slowly, one eye swollen, one arm burned, but still standing. Valari. She looked at him with shock, pain, and something else. Relief. "I told you not to follow," she said. He walked to her anyway. "You think I'd let you face this alone?" A shadow moved behind them. 3 shapes. Hunters. Not machines. Not fully alive either. Modified to track and erase. Hayes pulled out his sidearm, but Valari stepped forward. "No," she said. "I'll finish this." She turned to face the red line, hunters, and smiled. This time, it wasn't a soft smile. It was sharp, focused. She activated something inside her mind. The hunters paused, recognized her code. She was one of them, once, but she overrode it. "I'm not yours anymore," she said, and then, She moved, faster than sight. One dropped in seconds. Another tried to flee, too late. She struck with fists and fire. When it was over, all that remained was smoke and silence. Hayes stood frozen. Valari. She turned back, breathing hard. Then, she dropped to her knees, not from pain, from exhaustion, from holding herself back. He ran to her, held her. She whispered, "I don't know who I am anymore." He answered, "Then we figure it out together." Later, as dawn rose over the desert, Moon. She lay beside him on the sand, head resting on his chest, still unsure, still haunted, but alive. She said softly, "They turned me into a weapon, but I still remember what it felt like. When you held my hand." He nodded. "That's what makes you human, not what they did. What you chose." She closed her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she slept. Peacefully. And Hayes kept watch. Because the fight wasn't over, but for now she was safe and he was never letting go again.